Now in its 9th year, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we go out to our old friend who lives out on the other coast of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, with a toothache today and still getting over COVID.
Yes, I'm hanging by a thread.
You're hanging by a thread?
I literally think I was the last person to get COVID. I feel like the last guy that got shot in World War II or something. You know.
Well, wait a minute. I got it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I guess we both did about the same time, right?
Yeah. So you weren't.
They were pretty much saying it was over at the time. I didn't know what the hell's going on.
Well, I think that's a misnomer that it's over with. Okay, I think it's better than it was, but I don't think it's it's over with. If anything, they say that it's on the rise again.
Really?
Well, mainly because people aren't taking the precautions they once took. You took all your precautions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you're okay, but you're going to be tired. You couldn't do the Paxlovid, right?
By the time I tested, it was the 5th day, and that was kind of on the edge of when they're effective, so...
Yeah.
She didn't think it would work at that point.
Yeah, luckily I had a doctor in the house.
You literally?
Literally, I had a doctor in the house, Bubbaloo Vickers' wife, Buddy Love's wife, Rachel. And she's a doctor, and she immediately, I said, I'm going to go take a test. I said, I felt horrible last night. I'm going to take a COVID test, and I did it while they were here. And I took it, and I was positive. And immediately she hands me a mask, puts one on her face, and says, we got to order you some Paxlovid. And, of course, she's a doctor from California, but she could call it in here. So, we were fine. And I got the Paxlovid, and pretty much if you get it soon enough, it knocks it out pretty much in a day.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
So.
Now, as to whether... It has any long-term effects, we don't know, but But I don't want to talk. See, I don't want to talk about COVID because one time we did talk about COVID on my show, and they gave me a warning at YouTube.
Really?
They gave me a warning at YouTube, and the fact was the discussion we had wasn't anything that belied anything in the science of COVID. It was somebody on the show who said, did you hear what Fox said yesterday? And then he stated what Fox had said, and then we all said, isn't that horrible? How irresponsible of them and whatever. But all they saw, because they have algorithms that check all the stuff that goes on YouTube, and all the algorithm heard was this one thing of this guy saying what Fox had said.
Uh-huh.
And so I then complained about it, and so they did a human checked it out, and of course all it gives the human is that one statement, and they said, we're still holding you to it. You were wrong to do that. And I'm going, it's just not worth it. All I ever did when I was talking about COVID on my show was always talking about the science and how terrible the lies were going on out there, So maybe I just better not talk about COVID. I better not talk about how you can.
I guess not. I hate this. God, this censorship is like.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And then once they say, well, we had a human check it, and you're still at fault, and then if you try to, protest it again, there's no way to protest it. They won't take another protest.
It's like a Kafka novel.
It's like a Kafka novel. Right. So anyway, so you've got a double whammy. You get coming down off COVID. You still feel tired, right?
you got the tiredness, and now I got this. I got a toothache, which a dentist thinks I need a crown and hopes it's not a root canal. So I'll see him Friday. So.
Yeah, they always hope it's not a root canal, but in their heart of hearts, they're crossing their fingers and hoping it is because they can.
It's very expensive.
This whole thing about a dentist telling you, well, it might need a root canal, but I hope not. What do you mean you hope not? Of course you're hoping it's going to be a root canal. You're rooting for root canal. That's what I hate. That's what I don't trust about doctors overall today. I just don't. I found I've come to have this complete distrust of doctors over the years, and even the ones that I trust, I don't trust anymore, because all they're doing is they're practicing defensive medicine, so they will have you do any number of tests and things like that in order to save their ass. They don't want to. They don't want you coming back and saying, "Well, I had cancer and he didn't do anything about it." Well, I sent you off for that CT scan. But that means you get a lot of unwanted CT scans and a lot of unwanted this and a lot of unwanted that. And then I found doctors that I've had that are just absolute crooks. I mean, just crooks. I had one a while back. I've talked about it on the show, who I went to because my doctor said, "Oh, you should see this guy because I think there's something wrong with your blood tests that came back." And then when I went to see this guy, he said, "No, it's not. Don't worry about that. But let's do all these other blood tests." He did $5,000 worth of blood tests.
Wow.
And sent a $5,000 bill to Medicare, of which they said they would only pay $1,200. And then the guy never got a hold of me to tell me how the test turned out.
Jesus, well, no wonder Medicare is going bankrupt.
And then I get a call from his nurse or his assistant or whatever saying, "Oh, by the way, the doctor wants to make an appointment with you as a follow-up to your appointment with him 2 months ago." And I went, "I never heard back from him on that one." I said, "I never got it." And he never called me to tell me how my test turned out. He says, "Well, they must have been okay, otherwise he would have called you." I went, "That's not an answer."
Yes.
That's not an answer. $1,200. Let's say it's not 5,000.
So
Let's
unprofessional.
say it's 1,200. You owe me a call. So I mean, it's stuff like that I keep running into, and I just keep going, geez, And now my doctor wants me to have a CT scan because we found a couple of spots on my lungs which are nothing, because I looked them up and one of them hasn't changed in 5 years, which is then considered benign, and the other one is a kind that is very rarely, if ever, cancerous, even if it grows. But he's sending me for another CT scan, just to be on the safe side. Well, come on. More radiation? Come on.
Yeah, and that's more cost to the system. And
yeah, so how do you trust doctors today? I mean,
I guess you don't.
Do you trust them?
No, and I think they all have incentives to give you big pharma. Will pay them to get you on some pills, and
yeah, and Marjorie loves her doctor. She's got 20 different doctors she goes to, and I don't trust them at all. I just I'd rather drop dead of some horrible disease, having not gone to a doctor, than to rely on them for my health.
Well, Buddy Love's got the perfect situation, being married to a doctor. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Hey, I've got a headache. Here, take this.
I know.
Gee, I've got COVID. Here, take this. Yeah, no. I mean, it was wonderful having somebody here. I mean, that was the best part of it. I've never, the old saying goes, is there a doctor in the house? Well, there was a doctor in the house. So.
And you knock it out quickly.
But I couldn't figure. Did you ever figure out where you got the COVID?
I was trying to figure. I'd been at the Throckmorton 3 days before I got symptoms, so somebody said it was probably there.
Might have been there. I have no idea, because here's the strange part about it. I mean, you don't live with anybody, so you don't have to deal with this.
No.
But, I came down with it the night before when I was feeling lousy. I was waking up from sleep and I was breathing funny and everything was going wrong with me, right? And who's sleeping in bed with me? Marjorie. Who went everywhere I went? Marjorie. Okay? So, now we got that problem solved. We know that Marjorie has been with me. Did she come down with it? No. She didn't come down with it.
And she was that close to you.
So where the hell did I get it, and why didn't she get it?
Yeah, I would love to be able to track this stuff down.
Yeah, I mean, and then, of course, as soon as they found out that I had what I had, they then sent me to the guest bedroom where I had to spend the rest of the 5 days. I couldn't come out. Marjorie, anytime I would get close to Marjorie in the bedroom, she would, put her mask on and go away, don't get near me. It's like you're a leper. So, But anyway, so
you think it's going to be around a long time?
Well, I think it's always going to be around. I think as to how dangerous it is. I mean, I think that if Marjorie didn't get it from me, then it isn't as infectious as it once was. That's my theory. But if anybody's listening out there in what do you call it? Oh God, my mind's a blank today. God, it's terrible. Out there in YouTube land, I'm not saying that. I'm still saying it's around. Okay, and don't give me a bad time for that. But I do think that it perhaps is weaker than it was. And so therefore that's why Marjorie didn't get it from me.
I think so, and I think...
and also she was fully...
From what I've heard, I would have felt a lot worse with the first... Well, 2 years ago, when people were getting it, I think it was really bad.
Yeah. And Marjorie, she didn't get it because she's also had all the vaccinations and stuff, and those might have played into it. And I got it even though I had the same vaccinations, because maybe I was closer to somebody or it was weaker or whatever. All I know, she didn't come down with it. So that makes sense to me.
Maybe she's got a really strong immune system.
So did you miss any gigs because of COVID?
I missed a couple, yeah. I had a good one with Dana Carvey, even though I was exhausted. That was fun. And then last night, I saw our old friend who did a set for the first time in 1 year, Bobby Slayton.
Yeah.
And he killed. It was hilarious.
Oh, of course. He's great.
He's the best, right?
Right. Now he goes back for another year and doesn't do his act,
Yeah, he said he didn't miss it, but he was really nervous before he went on last night, and then he destroyed. So
but he did it because why? Because the Throckmorton asked him to do it?
Lucy, who owns the Throckmorton, just because she loves Bobby, and said, "Please come up and do a set." So, and he loves Mill Valley, so he came up, and then wound up having a great time. So.
Yeah, good. Well, maybe that'll encourage him to do more comedy.
I hope so. Yeah, he's too good to quit.
His problem, according to him, he said one of the problems he has is he's so old now. He is so old. I think he's 70 or something like that.
68.
68. The comedy clubs don't hire him. They won't hire him. They want young comics.
That's true to a point, but there's places that will. I mean, there's an audience for everyone. So.
Well, he says he doesn't want to have to suffer the indignity, of them going, "Oh, you're too young," or here's what we're paying, only in it for a profit. So if they're given the choice between Bobby Slayton at $4,000 a week and Bobby Bitter
at $400,
they're going to do the guy's $400 if he's going to draw just as many people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's all how many people you draw, and the question is, do young people?
Yeah.
And
the nature of the business.
Yeah, and I think he just doesn't want. I don't know if he loves doing it anymore. I think there was a point in his life where he loved doing it.
Yeah, and I remember he was, when I first saw live stand-up, he was one of the first guys I saw, and he blew me away. He was so good. And
Yeah. And he loved doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
you never saw him do his act and ever phone it in, you know?
no, he worked hard.
Yeah.
And and him on your show was always great. So
He's always perfect, you know, always perfect. But anyway, I'm glad you got to see him, you know, and that the audience got to see him.
yeah,
And remember how good he was.
and the place was sold out, so he still has some fans.
What does it take to sell out the Throckmorton now?
About 200.
Yeah, that's easy to sell out when you got somebody who's got a name.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I imagine if you were the only person on the bill, you'd probably come close to selling that place out.
Oh, I don't think so. I'd maybe get half that if I'd be lucky. But
Really? I mean, it's a 200-seat theater. It's nothing.
well, it's so hard. That's the other thing. Now it's so hard to get people to come out for anything anymore.
Really? Because since COVID, right?
It's just, I don't know. I think everyone's watched things on the internet now. People don't go out like the 80s. Everybody was going out every night. And just people don't go out like they used to.
I used to go to movies about once every 2 weeks. You know how many times I've been to the movies in the last 4 years? Once. You know, why do I want? Number one, why do I want to sit in a movie theater and have people kicking the back of my seat, or a baby
and making phone calls?
or making phone calls? I had people make phone calls next to me, and I'm going, I'm sorry, but take that out into the lobby. Shut up, old man. You know, I mean,
people are so oblivious to anything around them anymore.
So-
It's just their world, and that's it.
and so we decided to go to a movie theater. I can't remember what the film was. We walked out in the middle of it. Yeah. It was the latest Avatar movie. After 2/3 of the film, because a 3-hour film, we left.
Wow, 3 hours?
I said,
Jesus.
I can download this off the internet. We'll watch the last third of this at home, right? And so I did that, and we just left. But the reason we left was the whole experience of the theater. You would think that, you know, they were shut down for like 2 years practically, and then all of a sudden people are coming back. You would make it a very pleasant experience for me. You clean up your theater, and you would, you know, none of that. It was filthy. The seats were
Really?
falling apart, and it was just a terrible theatrical experience. So why should I go
Yeah.
back to a movie theater? I can
I
sit
don't
here
even what the ticket costs these days.
and I can wait a month, and it'll be on one of my apps. You know, it'll be on Netflix, or it'll be on Disney Plus, or whatever. I mean, Avatar, the latest one, is on 3 different systems right now. You know, it's on HBO, it's on Max, it's on Disney Plus, it's on Hulu. You know, so what? I can wait. You know, movies don't have an expiration date. Oh, maybe they do if they're 50 years old, and then when you watch them, they look really old. But you know what I watched? What we watched that didn't get old? The Indiana Jones movies, especially the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's still terrific. And you know what? Not one digital minute in the whole film.
Really?
It was
Wow.
all what we call practical effects, you know, or matte shots, as they call them sometimes. But I mean, it was terrific. You know, I watched it. And I said, this movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of the most perfect movies ever made. There's not a missed beat in there. There's not one shot that doesn't look great. I mean,
June of 81.
June of 81. I remember coming out of a preview of that, just awed by it, and I immediately called Shecky, and I said, I just saw the best film I've ever seen. So the most perfect movie. And he said, what is that? I said, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then when he went to see it, he agreed with me. It was just a perfect film. Just a perfect film. So, you know.
Yeah, that thing where he tries to do something and that gigantic ball is rolling after him.
Yeah. I mean, but all of that, today those would all be digital effects. They do them in a computer. The boulder would be a computer boulder.
Yeah, I think that crap gets overdone.
Yeah, but this was all practical effects. And I said, it looks better. It is more convincing. It's more convincing because even if it looks a little phony, okay, there's a thing called suspending disbelief. And if you're watching something and it looks phony, you will suspend your disbelief in order to buy it. Mm-hmm. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was terrific. Just terrific. A wonderful movie. And with all the digital effects today, pictures don't look that good. You look at them and you go, well, that's another digital effect, and that's another digital. Oh yeah, there are 1,000 people charging against that building. Oh, those are all digital people. It's just what we're watching are animated cartoons. Is what we're watching.
Yeah, pretty much.
So if anybody has a chance, it's on Disney Plus. Go back and watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. You'll just be amazed by how good it is, how good it looks, and how convincing the whole thing is on screen. I think if I made a movie today, I'd bypass digital. And you say, well, isn't it more expensive to do it the other way? Not really. It's very expensive to do digital and do animation. And if you look at the end of a movie and see how many animators worked a particular film, there's so many of them that it's a whole company that you've hired to do the damn thing. So,
what's the budget for that? Jesus.
Have you been to any movies yourself?
I haven't been to a theater, I don't think, in years.
Yeah. So that's what's happened to the theaters, and the same thing's probably happened to the comedy clubs. People got used to not going to the comedy clubs. They can sit home and they can watch a major or minor comic on their television set.
Right.
I watched a whole set with Sarah Silverman the other day. Didn't have to go to a club to see her, and it was terrific watching her there. Mm-hmm. Stand-up comedy plays very well on TV. So.
Yeah.
Especially Larry Bubbles Brown, who the next time he appears on a national show will be another 20 years.
Exactly.
But I mean, when you did those shots on Letterman, man, they were perfect because you look good in close up because your facial features are funny. And
it doesn't seem to work in a club, but I do muggle a little, and it shows up on TV more. So.
But you're a TV comic, no question about it. But is Bubbles going to go get himself a TV shot? Probably not.
Not at this age, not likely. But
do you feel that your age is starting to hurt your?
Oh, it has for a while, yeah. But that's.
How about Dana? Does he feel that way?
Well, Dana has. Boy, he sold out an 1,100-seat theater Saturday night. It was just he's got that podcast with David Spade that's very popular. So he's got this whole resurgence now.
Yeah. So
he's got some booking agency that wants to. They can get him 200 dates a year, and he said, "I'm not going to travel like that at this age." But
200 dates a year?
They said, "We'll give you 200 dates a year." He said, "No, thank you."
Where's he going to be playing? Uncle Funny's Chuckle Hut? What?
Theaters. So huge money, yeah.
Really? Wow. Amazing. Just amazing. Yeah, well, he's always been a good comic,
Yeah, he's so good. It's funny that he and Bobby Slayton were born 8 days apart.
Were they really?
Yeah, I thought there must have been some comedy gods in
some kind of
sky that night.
Comedy thing going, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I mean, I'm so happy you work. You should be working.
I don't want to do nothing. So.
Well, I mean, if you didn't do comedy anymore, could you continue to survive? Okay.
But I'd have to I don't make enough on Social Security, so I would probably have to do something.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you're one of the best there is.
Oh.
especially as an opening act for somebody like Dana.
Yeah, that's perfect for me.
You're perfect. You don't spoil the room. You get everybody pumped up for comedy in that evening, and then you go, now here's Dana Carvey, And Dana does.
I knew the crowd's a little older for him, but I knew somehow I yelled out to him. He wanted an impression of John Barrymore. I thought, this guy's got to be 90.
Somebody yelled out John Barrymore.
Yeah, do John Barrymore.
How can you I wouldn't even know how to do John Barrymore.
Well, Dana did.
And I was just watching a film yesterday with him, Romeo and Juliet. Wow. Hey, listen, we've run out of time.
Yes, and I'm running out of time myself rapidly.
Yeah, how's your tooth doing?
It's not good.
Not good. Okay, well, we'll hopefully next time we talk we'll be able to do a couple of these things. But you're terrific. I think the world of you.
Back at you, brother.
One of my favorite people, ladies and gentlemen. There he is, Larry Bubbles Brown. Yay!
Now in its 9th year, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Yes. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I got to turn on my... there we go. Turn on my lights. God. Gotta get it all going here. All right. And let me turn my mic up right. Let me get my audio good. I'm trying to figure out why certain things don't work and why others do. And, I'll go figure it out later. Anyway. Hello, everybody. How are you? How are you? Got quite a few people watching right now. We're happy with that. And let's see here. Why don't we let some of these people in who are currently ready to go on here? There's Jeff Stein, and let me see here. Who else? Charlie Wallace is there. And Josh Wheeler is there, and I guess we'll get other people to join us as the evening progresses. Hello, all.
Fine.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. Alrighty. Let me see here. Let me just get my volume. We don't need it that high. Okay. How you doing? Oh, just Jurassic Park tonight, Charlie.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, my favorite movie.
Is that your favorite movie?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Of all time.
Of all time. Really?
Yeah.
Now, but you haven't seen every movie, so how do you know?
Of the movies I've seen.
Of the movies you've seen, it's your favorite.
I've seen a bunch.
Uh-huh. Because every time I think I've seen my favorite film, occasionally I'll go see a silent film or something that, of course, I never saw, and I'll suddenly go, that's my newest favorite film. So... I mean, I bet you never saw Greed by Eric von Stroheim. Pretty good film.
Nope, never did.
Pretty good film. Pretty good. No, but I don't know, when you say your favorite film, I mean, there are so many films in so many different genres. It's very hard to name your favorite film.
Yeah, but I'm a scientist, and science in it, and the dinosaurs just blew me away.
What is it about dinosaurs that people find so interesting? I mean, after all, it's not something they reminisce about,
They existed.
Yeah.
They lived here.
You had that 20-ton brontosaurus
yeah, and you
roaming the earth some time ago.
Yeah, but I mean,
Unless you're a creationist and doesn't believe that.
But what is it about us that responds to it like we do?
Just
Huge
imagine
size.
Well, I mean, let's see here. When did the last dinosaur live?
About 65 million years ago.
65 million years ago. That's a lot of years ago. And by the way, in spite of what everybody would like to think after seeing, 1,000 years BC and films like that, human beings did not exist at the same time as the dinosaurs did.
Nope.
Okay? As a matter of fact, what's interesting is, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Charlie, and I'm sure you will, the Neanderthals existed at the same time as Homo sapiens.
Yes,
In other words,
they overlapped. Yeah.
yeah, they overlapped, and the trouble with do you remember the reason why the Neanderthals disappeared?
Well, there's theories on it.
What's the one that you hear a lot of?
One that I hear a lot is that they weren't as smart as the Cro-Magnon or human. Homo.
Cro-Magnon is probably what we would call modern Homo sapiens. Okay.
Yeah.
What I heard, the theory I heard, was that they had no social structure. They did not socially get along as a cohesive group. So when it came time for other groups to come along, they just encroached upon them, and they couldn't get themselves together to thwart off other people. I think the last time they existed was maybe somewhere like the coast of Spain or somewhere down there.
Yeah.
Was the last place, and then they were pushed into the sea, and that was it for the Neanderthals. You know.
Actually, we think that they also crossbred with Homo sapiens because
Well, we know that.
a lot of us actually have Neanderthal genes in us.
Well, yeah, that proof positive of that is Donald Trump.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. The absolute Neanderthals. You know, were the Neanderthals kind of dumb in comparison to the Cro-Magnons?
I think they're thought to be. The brains were actually bigger, but not as well organized as ours.
So they just died as a matter of extinction, actually.
And also, we don't think that they had the verbal skills that we have.
Yeah. Well, I think that went along with not having the social skills.
Yeah.
In other words, the Homo sapien or the what is it, Cro-Magnon or the Homo sapiens? Are they the same thing?
They're the same thing.
Okay, so the Homo sapiens were able to communicate with each other, and they got together in tribes and groups and things like that, and they had a social ethos, whereas the Neanderthal, they had no social skills. So. Neither do I, so I'm probably a Neanderthal.
That's why I'm going extinct too.
Yeah.
No
yeah.
social skills.
But how long do you think it's going to be before humans go extinct?
About 20 years, the way we're going.
Yeah, I mean, do you think some kind of cataclysm is going to happen that's going to bring it all to an end?
Yeah, we're going to make the world unlivable.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we already have.
Because Republicans rule everything, and they don't believe in global warming.
Yeah,
so
well, I will tell you the main reason why man will not survive, because we don't pay for people's education. Okay?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just not right, is it? That what happened today in the Supreme Court, right, Josh, Mr. Supreme Court guy?
Well, I mean, I don't know what do you mean by it's not right. I mean,
I think it's stupid, actually. And I think it's stupid because I think it's important that we have educated people out there, because they're the ones that are going to bring home the money, that they're going to pay the bills, that are going to pay the taxes. And so it's an investment the country makes in another human being. There's nothing wrong with that. And yet, you know, here we got all these Republicans in the Supreme Court, which is just, you know, ridiculous.
well, what you said there is true, but the court's not a political establishment to decide policy. What they were asked to decide was whether or not the President of the United States had the power to take such an action. I mean, that's what they were asked.
Yeah.
So the policy, to me, is irrelevant.
Would you agree or disagree with their decision?
Well, I would agree with her decision. I don't think the President of the United States has the power to cancel constitutionally mandated debt as mandated by the legislative branch.
Was that mandated by the legislative branch?
Well, the legislature passed laws that set up government-owned and operated entities that were to loan money to people for the purpose of education, and the contract agreement was that people would pay that money back. So I guess my question is, and the course question was, what constitutional authority allows the president, any president, to change that contract without an act of the legislature? In other words,
if it was something that was established by Congress, let's say,
yeah,
okay,
they're the ones that set
then
up.
he can't negate it.
No, what power gives him the power to do that? I mean, why, if he's allowed to do that, if he or she, that's what I'm saying. This isn't Biden. This isn't student loans. This is an exercise in who has the power to do what. So then, I'm just asking, because this is a discussion people should have, and they should think about it in this way. Then what stops the president from tomorrow from saying, okay, these are the tax laws, but I don't like this 48% tax bracket for corporations. That's out by executive order. They don't have to pay that money. I canceled it. What's to stop him?
Well, my question is that just because Congress creates something doesn't mean that he can't, on a different level, because they created the loan system, let's say, okay, the student loan system,
right?
That he can't turn around and say, you know something, I think we should be forgiving these loans, and then he just says we're going to forgive them. I mean, it's not part and parcel with the law that was passed. He just says, hey, there are too many people that are still spending money to pay off these loans, and they're in their 40s now.
Sure.
Huh?
Some of us in our 70s.
Are you still paying yours off?
No, I actually have finished paying them off about 8 months ago.
I mean,
wait a minute, hold on a second.
Yeah.
8 months ago?
Yes, sir.
How old are you, Charlie?
I'm 73.
He's 73, and he just paid it 8 months ago. You managed to pay off your student loan.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm separating the policy aside from the question. I mean, the policy is a political question, if you ask me. But the question the court is faced with, and that really is being discussed, is a separation of powers issue. I mean, the policy is completely irrelevant in my mind. I'm not against the policy. I mean, I would be a direct beneficiary of the policy, as would my wife. I mean, but I'm just saying.
Wait a minute, are you still paying your student loans off?
Well, sure. I mean,
what do you mean, well, sure? How old are you?
Well, I'm in my 40s. I mean,
Boy, Michael,
I'm also still continuing my education. So, I'm not. I've had several, graduate degrees. So I mean, I still go slowly over time. I take 3 or 4 things here and there, and this, that, and the other. So it goes on, but. I'm just saying that the thing is.
I mean, am I going to be able to say, here's Josh Wheeler, he's now 98 years old, and he just paid off his student loan?
That's possible. Who knows? Because they have some, graduated things, and they time out after a while if your income was this, that, and the other. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The laws are pretty complicated, but they're just like tax laws, but they're there. This is what it says. I mean, this is what you're supposed to do. I'm just saying, what would stop Trump from being reelected and saying, I think taxes are too high on rich people, and I think they should be reduced by X number. I think everyone who's rich should get a $1 million credit. I signed an executive order. It's done. I mean, I'm just asking, because to me, if they would allow this power to happen, and a president were to then take that step, what would be the counter argument?
Okay, how could he have done this and bypassed the Supreme Court ruling on something like this? I mean, what could he have done? Could he have just said, we don't forgive the loans, we're just not going to aggressively collect them?
I think Congress have to pass something.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, to me, that's the thing. It's to me, there's nothing he can do. It's not an executive branch,
right?
prerogative, if you will. It is the power of the legislative branch who controls the money.
Wouldn't it be
prerogative?
Okay, forget about that part of it. Wouldn't it, like I said, wouldn't it be good if we went ahead and forgave these debts because it would be good for the economy?
I have no counter argument to that whatsoever. But I'm just saying I think that's a political
and to help poor kids like Charlie who just finished paying off his student loan. You know, I mean, he became a nuclear physicist, right? Astrophysicist. Became an astrophysicist.
I completely agree.
You know,
But I'm just saying that I think it's a political question that people who are running for Congress or your state legislature or whatever should run on, give speeches on, make their platform on, and then you vote for those folks, and then they pass that, and it's done. I mean, if Congress were to write this little law that says everyone who owes X, we are going to reduce it by X on this date, if they were to write that and pass it tomorrow, the Supreme Court would have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And it would be done, and no one would challenge it.
Yeah.
I mean, some people would, pull their garbage or whatever.
Yeah, they might challenge it, but it wouldn't prevail.
The Republicans certainly wouldn't vote for it.
Yeah, well, probably not. But I'm just saying, let's say it was bipartisan, and they did, and it got 300 votes to 135 votes, and went to the Senate and got 71 votes to 29, and went to the president, and he signed it up. The next day, it's done.
Now, have they already?
And the Supreme Court would just eat lunch.
Have they already forgiven some of these loans?
No.
Well, they have forgiven some loans within the existing program of loan forgiveness.
Yeah.
So my understanding is, let's say you're on the extended graduated repayment program, which is where you pay for 30 years based on your income.
Yeah.
They can only make you pay so much of your discretionary income, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't make a lot of money and that's low, and you owe a lot, but you pay that low payment for 30 years, at the end of the 30 years, they forgive all the rest. There is loan forgiveness built into it. My understanding is, if you agree to quit your job that you have now and go into public service, you join AmeriCorps, I think, or if you go teach in a public school or whatever, they forgive so much of it after 10 years. Or
if you teach in the inner city,
that's what I'm saying. The laws that govern this are about this thick, and what Biden tried to do was just, I think he knew, and his people knew all along this was going to be the result, but they're all getting their 15 minutes of how terrible it is and all that. And if they would like to make this an issue to run on, I think that would be a perfectly welcome idea. In fact, I think they should, and I think they're blaming the court is a bit of scapegoating for them, but if it works for them politically, it's fine. The court's used to it. They'll get over it.
You want me to ask the stupidest question I'll ever ask on this show, and that would be, Tony, how much student debt do you have left?
I dropped out of Queens College.
Yeah, okay, that's what I figured.
My mother's still haunting me over there.
I went to like a year or two of City College of San Francisco, and then decided to hell with it. So I never owned a penny in student debt.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it's a political question. I mean, look, there's a lot of ways. I mean, you can join the Army Reserve and serve 3 years or whatever their minimum contract is and get out and take full advantage of the GI Bill, or, and I know that's not the most welcome thing. I'm just saying, but for some people it would be great, Now, I don't disagree. College should be overall much cheaper, and in my opinion, there should be a portion of it that is provided for anyone who wants it and has proven that they deserve it. In other words, you graduated high school with a GPA of whatever or whatnot, and then you can go with that. I'll vote for that. I don't have an issue with that, and I will not. If something happens down the road, I will not say, "Well, that's not fair because I didn't get it too." I mean, I might roll my eyes a little bit and wish I had, but that's the way that it, that's the way that it is, in my opinion. Other people would disagree.
Well, I just
we had this conversation on Saturday night, and I get it, and they're entitled to that, and I won't fault them for it. I'm fine with it. I just think what the court was asked to do was a political question, and there is in political science especially, and in constitutional science, there has been a ever slowly but surely growing power of the executive branch for several decades, and it's high time they peeled some of it back. The power to govern this country belongs
I think there's another bigger question, and this has been coming up a lot lately, and that is, do we put too much emphasis on college? I mean, there are a lot of people that don't need college. I didn't need college. Right. And I was very successful, but I didn't need college, and
we definitely do. I think I have.
And one of the reasons I stopped going to college is I figured I was taking up the seat of somebody else that could use it, and I didn't need it. I already had a job in radio at that point.
Look, I mean, I don't have any kids, so I'm certainly not any good at raising them, I guess. But if I had one, my philosophy would have been I wouldn't be pressuring them to go to college. I would be pressuring them to get a career that they liked.
Yeah.
Because I'm just telling you that too few people in this country have a job that they like.
Well, let me ask you this question. I mean, this is the one that's always kind of bothered me. What happens when somebody graduates from high school? The very next thing they do is they're out shopping for a college or a university. All right? Is that a good time for them to go to a college or a university? Shouldn't they take a few years off to kind of see what they'd really like to do in life?
That's a good point, because I think I was very lazy in school, so that's just. But I would have liked to take.
Who would have thought? Off. What?
Yeah, who would have thought I was lazy? Yeah. I mean, I did all right, but I mean, I don't mean it like that. But I was lazy. I got bored. But what is that? You know what it is? I think you're right. You're in high school. I'll never forget this. My last year of high school, where everybody's talking and stuff like that. And I could have actually left early. All of a sudden,
at 18, you're
being
like,
okay, now what am I going to do with the rest of my life? It's like, wow.
You're being asked, what do you want to be? Let's look at Charlie for a second. What's your degree in again, Charlie?
That's heavy.
Physics.
Yeah.
Astrophysics, right? Boom, bingo. Are you doing anything right now that requires astrophysics?
Oh, my career was in information technology.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And I worked as a computer analyst.
And did you study for that in college?
Yes.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
I went back to school after my master's to learn computer science.
Okay, after the fact. Okay.
I spent 9 years in college. That's why I had so much debt.
And then you wound up paying for your kids' college too, right?
Yes. That's what I just paid off 8 months ago, was my kids.
Oh, they were kids. Okay, so that wasn't yours.
No, I paid mine off probably 1980, something like that.
Oh, okay. All right. So we won't make fun of you anymore here.
It's like a stupid. I used to make photo report cards for the bad students. They used to love that.
Well, I never had any kids, so I didn't have to worry about sending kids to college, right? Or I'd really be broke now. What?
You want to laugh, Alex? I'll never forget this. I made a photo report card off of my brother bought me a Commodore 64. So one of the bad students, he was older than me, I gave it to him. I says, "Give me the grade you want." I'll never forget this kid. He saw it in that Monday, right? He grabbed me. He says, "I said, oh shit, don't tell me it didn't work." I said, "This thing is good." He goes, "My father loved it, Tony." I said, "You do realize I can't make diplomas?" I charged him $20 for a report card. I used to buy my remote rackets and stuff with it. Another satisfied customer, I would say, leaving.
No, but I was going to City College of San Francisco, and they had broadcasting there and everything, and It was a city college.
That's nice. So that's what I would do, like a city
I was
school.
going just because people said, "Gee, you should go to college." Meanwhile, I was working at a radio
You
station.
had a real job.
A radio station in San Rafael, pretty much full time, working at this station, and going, "What am I doing here?" And to begin with, what they were teaching us in radio was ridiculous. They were teaching us at that point, still, how to do radio plays.
Did you ever say, like, I really work?
Yeah, how to do radio plays. Meanwhile, nobody was teaching anybody how to be a disc jockey,
Did your teacher, Alex, ever work in, like, ever have a job like you had? Or no, like, did you ever ask him, like, I'm already working more than he is?
Well, you may have all seen my teacher.
No, did I? No, I don't know.
Did you ever see the first Woody Allen film?
Which one?
Take the Money and Run?
I didn't see that. Why, he was in it?
And there's somebody that plays Woody Allen's father who's being interviewed by the news.
I gotta look at
That was my broadcasting teacher.
Really? I'm gonna watch that movie now. Take the money.
Yes, Henry Leff, and the guy told my parents when we had like Parents' Day to come see the people. He said, "Your incentive I got in college from some guy who said I'd never make it in this business." And when I finally made it really big in San Francisco, I yelled and screamed his name out on the air, and I said, "This guy said I would never make it."
What's his name?
And by the way, Jack Bishop knows him too. Jack Bishop had him as a teacher too. His name was.
I got the cast in front of me, Alex. I'm on IMDb.
His name was Henry Leff. Look,
Henry
Leff. Look, take the money and run.
There he is, Father Stockwell.
Yeah.
Here he is. Creditless, yeah.
Yeah.
Veteran radio, television, and film actor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Right.
You're right. Alex is headed the broadcasting department at City College in San Francisco for 35 years.
Yeah.
That's funny. I'm going to watch that movie over the weekend now.
I'm glad that Tony clarified that. Now I believe you, Alex.
Well, I didn't believe him, but it's weird seeing the guy. They got a picture of him smoking it looks like a gangster, Alex, like in the photo they're showing.
Yeah, sure.
He lives in
He's a good actor.
Yeah.
But the newspapers this afternoon are full of op-eds. Your typical Ruth Marcus in the Washington Post, that whiny bitch. With the same sort of reactions about how the court they've just ruined everything, and but all of the lawmakers could have. I mean, there are 535 elected members of Congress who have this power. There are 9 members of the U.S. Supreme Court, and they were, again, I know I defend them all the time. I'll criticize them when I think they're wrong. They're the branch between these two branches, and they were asked to settle the dispute by these two branches. I mean, who can't fix the problem for us. So what they do is they say, well, then send it to the court. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They're abdicating their own powers and responsibilities to these 9 people, as are we as voters for electing what Liz Cheney described as idiots.
Yep.
I mean, I think we all agree on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're the ones electing idiots, and then those idiots turn that power over to 9 people who none of us elected. And then when we don't like their outcome, we complain and we blame them. That's how I see it. I mean, just personally.
Well,
I'm a direct beneficiary of it, and I am in favor of the policy.
The court we have right now is a predominantly right-wing court. I think you'll have to agree with that.
Don't disagree, and I think that it's a little wayward, but go ahead.
Yeah. Now, one of the other things they voted on, they came out with their determination on, was this woman who refused to she made websites or something, and she refused to do anything for people who were gay.
Yeah.
And they said she had the right to.
Yeah, they've looked at a few of those in the past. I mean,
it'd be very easy. It's very easy to be pro, homosexual, or pro gay, and say, "Oh, this is terrible. This is horrible. She shouldn't be allowed to." But really, she does have her own business, and if she doesn't want the business from gays, if I were gay, I wouldn't want to give her my business.
Well, I agree, and I tend to probably see it that way, and I have not read that opinion or really heard any much about it. I was very disconnected the last
what I was trying to figure out, Marjorie, was too, is it was not a court case, I don't think, but they went to the Supreme Court with the situation or something.
It had to have been a case somewhere to get to them, and I don't remember the names of the two parties. I'll read up on it probably while I'm off on vacation, and I'll check out their opinion. But I thought about this before, and again, you have to look at it from all sides, and I tend to look at it from a side that we as liberals or progressives or whatever we would describe ourselves as would look at it. And I'm just saying that if you or if Charlie or whoever, if you own a printing shop and a Klansman comes in and wants you to print a bunch of flyers that he can hang up that says, "Come to my Klan rally, there won't be any niggers there," and you don't want to print the sign, should he sue you? I mean, if you say, "No, I'm not into that," that's my religion teaches me to love all people.
Well, what they were actually saying is that a person. What do they put it here? Hold on a second. Businesses can refuse service to LGBTQ plus customers. Now, I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, that language there seems a little...
Well, that's Drudge.
But,
yeah.
I mean, so I'm sure there's a deeper meaning there. I mean, I don't know if they can refuse service purely based on that. They can refuse service if that is asking them to do something that is against their own personal beliefs. Again, like I said, I come in and I'm in the Klan and you own a printing shop and I want you to print me 1,000 flyers I can hang up around New York that says, "Come to my Klan rally and, learn about true Aryan ways and kill all the Jews." And you, as a Jewish print shop owner, say, "No,
we have to charge you twice."
Exactly. We have to charge you twice.
Yeah, it's true. So, I mean, if you did, how would you feel if a court said, "No, you have to print them"? He came to your shop, you have to print them.
Yeah.
I mean, what's to stop someone from saying, "I'm a hardworking Christian person. This guy's a drug dealer. I mean, I don't want anything to do with this guy." I'm just saying it's not always as cut and dry as the Washington Post would have you believe.
We're being a little loose with our description of this case. The court ruled 6-3 for designer Lori Smith for saying she can refuse to design websites for same-sex weddings.
Yes.
Despite a Colorado law that bars discrimination based on sexual orientation, race, gender, or other characteristics. But the question was more a question of she was denying them because they were gay weddings.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's discriminating against gays, but maybe having a moral objection to homosexuals being married.
Correct. And I think the case might have swung a different way if, for example, the people had just come in and said, "Please make us a website that says yard sale this Saturday." And then after they left, she looked them up on Facebook and said, "Well, that lady's gay. I don't want to."
If she discriminated against them because they were gay, that would be different than the moral feeling about them wanting to have a website for gay weddings.
Yeah, the product that you're being asked to produce directly reflects a vision or a thought or something that directly, in your opinion, your mind, violates your personal beliefs, and you therefore just don't want to conduct business with that person.
I wish we had a couple more people here to chime in on this, but
wait a
minute, but hold on a second. But I begin to wonder whether objecting to gay marriage is necessarily homophobic by nature. Or maybe just a feeling that people who get married should be heterosexual. I mean, and then that's a, it's an argument you can have with each other.
Yeah.
But then when it comes down to something of doing a service for somebody who wants, like for instance, let's say this. Let's say I'm a minister And now a gay couple comes to me and wants me to marry them, and I say, no, I'm not going to marry a gay couple.
Right.
Do I have that right? And I don't think that's necessarily being homophobic or discriminating against gays. Okay, it's discriminating against a gay philosophy, maybe, but you know.
Yeah, and I think you do have that right per previous court cases.
And by the way, if there are any gay weddings out there that want me to design a website, but I'm just saying, you know. Yes, Jeff.
So my wife and
I'll get to you next, Alan.
No problem.
are both married, but I'm a Jewish guy and she's a Christian lady. Some people could be complained about that and say, I'm not going to do that for you guys.
Yeah. Yes, Alan.
So if that minister refuses to marry somebody that's gay, gays are a protected class in this country so far. But then you say to that minister that you lose your tax exempt. Gays are a protected class.
Hold on a second, Jack.
Right here.
Do you have your audio up?
Yeah, let me get rid of that, okay?
Turn the browser off.
Please. Yeah, please. But anyway, go ahead.
No, that's all. I just wanted to say that, I mean, you know, that they're, in most places, gays are a protected class of people. And if that minister doesn't want to perform it, then fine, then you lose your tax exempt.
Yeah, but here's of course. But here's also the question. See, I mean, you have a restaurant, and a gay couple comes in and they want to eat. I think you're obligated to serve them. It would be discriminating against them if you didn't.
Right.
But when you get down to a question of a gay marriage, then you're getting into an area where somebody is going to have a moral opinion about it.
Yeah, and with your restaurant thing, I mean, again, please understand that I look over these and I'm just trying to get everyone to take a broader look at it. Not everything I say I always actually personally agree with, but getting back to your restaurant thing, you're gay, you go in, you sit down at the table, you order food. They've got to serve it to you, okay? They, you know, I mean, unless you're an unruly customer or something like that.
Right.
But you go to this restaurant, you're gay. It's owned by you, Christian man, you know, very whatever. Hey, it's dessert time. We want you to bring us cake. And by the way, on top of the cake, we want you to put a little thing of two men kissing. We're getting into territory that's debatable now, though, right?
Well, because then there is a question of that.
You don't, you know, I'm just saying.
Well, it then comes into a question of, say, that person's particular religious beliefs, because he will usually, use religious belief as their excuse why they don't want to make. We have one. This isn't the same case as that case that came up a while back about wedding cakes.
Similar, right?
Yeah, but it's similar. And you know, the question is wedding cakes, okay?
Yeah, but
you know, that's a different thing altogether, because then you're asking somebody to make a moral decision about saying, well, I don't want to really make, you know.
I wonder what kind of cake
same thing on the restaurant thing from the opposite. You and I go into a restaurant, we sit down, two white men, they got a service, okay?
Yeah.
We go in the same restaurant, we get to the end, we say, it's dessert time. It's his birthday. We'd like for you to bring us cake. By the way, we have these candles we'd like for you to put on top of them. We're in the Klan. They say K, K, K. And we have a little fake burning cross that we made up. We're in debatable territory here, right?
That's right.
In my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in the court's opinion, many times over. And in a lot of people's opinion. I'm just saying, I think it's not always as easy, like I said, as the Washington Post would have you believe.
Yeah. Yes, Tony.
Imagine if they're serving the Klan, you come out of the kitchen, Alex, they all got sheets on. Who has the steak? Rachel.
You know, I mean, I try to look at it, always try to look at these things from that perspective as well, where I say, well, if we get something that makes us happy today, when our homeboys are out of power in 2 more years, can the other party use that same law or that same power and give us a hose job. I mean,
Let me go into this article just a little more. It says the decision suggests that artists, photographers, videographers, and writers are among those who can refuse to offer what the court called expressive services if doing so would run contrary to their beliefs. Now, the question is,
What's that mean?
how deep can those beliefs go?
Yeah,
I mean,
like I said, some of that's debatable.
well, I'm just not going to make I'm not going to make a cake for Charlie because I don't like black people. I don't believe in black people. No, you can't use that. I'm sorry. Comment any, Jack? Yes, Jack's got his finger. I can't. Jack, sit up. Can you sit up a little more? Because
Yeah, sure, I can
really,
sure try.
you've got a black chair, and
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't.
wait a
want-
minute.
I
I haven't got my lights on. That's why you can't see me.
Oh, I see. Oh,
There we go.
well, okay.
What a difference.
All right. Yeah.
My argument
Yeah.
about this is
Mm-hmm.
once we start giving religious exceptions to people who solicit business in the public sphere, they can start saying, yeah, I'm not going to do a website for Charlie Wallace or Jack Bishop because they are black, because it's against my religious principles. We've had that argument put forth time and time
But
again.
what religious principle it goes against race? Although, no telling. I mean, when you talk about religion, you're talking about something in and of itself that we shouldn't
has
take into
happened.
consideration. But
It has happened. Not in a long time, but you start getting on these slopes and you start having people bring cases. And of course,
do you believe this person had a right to refuse to do a website for an organization that promotes gay weddings?
all right, here's what I say. If they were soliciting business in the public sphere, yeah, they should not be able to exclude gay people because they're just going out there and saying,
Yeah, but you're going to have to promote this thing to the public in order to get business. Maybe if their ad read, but please no gay weddings, maybe that would be okay.
that I would say may be okay.
Yeah.
May be okay.
I mean, I just don't like any kind of discrimination at all for any reason.
Well,
at all.
here's
but
here's
still,
here's the best.
still, I
example.
have to honor this person's misguided religious beliefs. Okay.
All right, here is the best example of the argument in my mind about why they should not be allowed to do this.
Okay.
As you know, I'm a Unitarian. Been a Unitarian since late 60s.
Yeah.
Now, the Southwest Unitarian Conference, because they never discriminated against who could be in the conference, who could be in any of the Unitarian churches, once was excluded from a Oklahoma resort that was a public resort owned by the state of Oklahoma. They discriminated against us because we had an integrated, whatever that term means, we had an integrated conference and would not allow us to book rooms there. And that was as late as the time I moved to Texas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you go back to the days of the Green Book.
Yeah.
Where, if you were black and you were traveling through the South, you had the Green Book and it told you exactly where you could stay and where you couldn't stay.
And I hate to say this, I didn't know about the Green Book until I saw the movie.
Yeah.
But if you're going to solicit business to the public,
Well, but let's put it, to begin with, I don't care if somebody says, I don't want to serve black people, because then I know this person is a bigot, I know this person is a racist, and I'm not going to do business with them.
I got no problem if they say up front, I don't want your business.
Yeah.
I'm excluding you.
I do.
You do? What,
Yeah.
Alan? What are you saying?
I'm saying Jack has no problem with them saying it up front. I do. I don't think there ought to be any. I don't know. I don't think you ought to be able to say that.
Why?
We see what we've come to do. You know, I think there's a big difference between dealing with race relations and race problems of people being bigoted racially, and then the gay community trying to lump in their problem with that of blacks. And I don't think it's exactly the same thing, because the dislike of blacks is a unwarranted attitude, a completely unwarranted.
Right.
It has it has no basis but in absolute bigotry. But then when you go to gays, you're dealing now with people who may have a moral objection to homosexual sex.
And there were people that had a moral objections to black and whites being together,
but
black and whites being married.
But racism was entirely a different animal than, say, homophobia.
That's right.
You know,
In what way?
And because a whole different set of rules applied.
Is being homosexual a choice?
No, I'm not saying it is a choice.
Is being Jewish a choice?
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Is being
I agree.
all right? Is being black a choice?
Is being black? No, absolutely not. But here's the point. What I'm saying is, when it comes to people making determining their prejudice about it, homosexuality has a different set of things that set it apart from racism. You know,
I'm going to sum up my position this way. Doesn't bother me if you exclude me. Does bother me if you get in my way and stop me from suing you about it. If I can find a lawyer that can take my case, I should be able to sue you for it. I should be able to climb in your wallet deep, far, and permanently.
Well, you know, I came up at a certain time and place where we were just right on the edge of anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where I don't think any place in my life was I ever told I couldn't go there because I was Jewish. Okay? 10 years earlier, 20 years earlier, yes, that probably would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But not when I grew up.
But
I know that the racism against blacks in this country, racism is entirely different than, say, homophobia. Homophobia carries with it a different. I mean, I think you're ridiculous to be homophobic. Okay, just as ridiculous it is to be a racist. But they are, I think, two different animals. Would anybody disagree with me on that?
I think you're right, because you know why, Alex?
Why?
Black, you can't hide your color. You can hide. People can conceal their.
Yes, you're right about that.
He just made my point. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
But
you
you
could closet yourself if you wanted to. It was a horrible thing to have to do,
Right.
but you could do it. You know.
Yep.
But you can
Thank
hide
you,
your
Tom.
color. Black folks have been doing that in America ever since the slave master climbed in bed with one of the slaves that he owned.
Yeah, but Jack, let's be honest. You'd have a pretty hard time saying you're not black.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Charlie would have a pretty hard time saying he's not black.
And my mother would not have.
Now, Lena Horne, you know, I mean, then we're getting into that halfway.
Yeah, my mother.
Jeff had his hand up. I want Jeff.
Yeah. So we used to go to this restaurant all the time. And Pam and I, we liked this place. And then we were telling our friends, like, come on, we're going to go out to dinner with you. So why don't you meet us at this place? And they happened to be black.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And they were there first. And we were later. Okay? And they put them in the worst possible place by themselves, way, in, like they were practically out of the store. Okay?
Yeah.
It was so bad that we couldn't find them. And we find them and we realize that they were so-called hidden. And I think we actually said, no, come on, we want to sit where we normally sit over there, or some of those places. And I think we got them and had dinner with them, and we never went to that restaurant again.
Right, right. That restaurant made a decision for themselves to lose your business.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
And then, I don't think they knew that at that time.
Alan?
Yeah, so I dated a black woman for, it's hard to believe a woman would date me, but for 7 years. She was an assistant district attorney, a great gal. And I'm still in contact with her. She's in your neck of the woods, New York. But in any case, she was here. But we went on the peninsula and we went to dinner, and a restaurant I'd eaten in many times, kind of like, Jeff. And they said, oh, we're full. And you could see tables were empty. And I'm like, what the hell is this about? And they said, we're full. And I said, does this get me in? And I showed them my badge. And they said, well, Mr. Ween, we always love you. And we know you're a cop. But, it's my wife and, and all this other stuff. And I said, because I'm with a black woman, you're going to tell me I can't come to eat in here? Yeah. I said, fine, we'll go somewhere else. Have a nice life. I'll never be back.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What can you do?
Absolutely. That would be my visceral response.
He had a gun on me. I guess I could have shot him.
Yeah, yeah.
And let me point this out. Black people did that for 300 years. in
Yes,
this
of
country.
course.
And then we said, hell no. Simply, hell no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it did take a few people to help you, few white people out there to help you as well.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Oh, sure.
And I, when I never could quite figure out, there is somewhat of a distasteful feeling by people in the black community against Jews. And I never could figure that one out, because if anybody fought for civil rights in this country, it was Jews. And we put our money on the line and everything to do it. And I've never been able to figure out where that. The only place I know that it does come from is that in a place like Harlem back in, say, the 20s, all the stores were owned by whites, by Jews. And at a certain point, the Jews decided they wanted to move out of Harlem. So they sold their homes and they moved. But the thing they kept were the businesses. And so then the only contact that the blacks had in contact with Jews was they were the businessmen who, when the welfare checks came out, they raised the prices at the grocery store, things like that. And so, and it was really the lousy Jews that kept these stores anyway, and those were the Jews that blacks had to deal with, and I think that's where the anti-Semitism comes from. Am I making sense, Charlie? Charlie seems to be agreeing with me.
I was gonna say that's exactly where it came from.
Yeah,
And I would agree with you. But also, don't assume that black people don't have their bigotries.
Of course.
Never assume that.
Well, that's right.
I have known members of my family who were much lighter skinned than I am, because with the exception of one of my uncles, they all married darker people, so they wouldn't be accused of being yellow, which was which was an insult in black
I think there was a
America.
term called high yellow, wasn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
And certainly my mother and her siblings were in that category, and all but one of them married people much darker to kind of tone that bad blood down. But I have heard racist remarks, not just in general of people that are Anglo-Saxon or Northern European or Southern European, but also directed.
What happened?
Directed towards Arabs.
Yeah.
Directed. My favorite one. I had a buddy that I worked with for years, who was a Cherokee Indian.
Yeah.
And my favorite uncle was in Dallas spending some time with me. And at one point in the conversation with me and him and this guy I worked with, he asked him, "What are you?" And Charlie said, "What do you mean?" He said, well, what are you? And Charlie, my Indian friend and buddy, said, "Oh, I'm Cherokee Indian." And my uncle said, "Well, yeah, I didn't think you were some kind of regular American."
Anyway, you better get going here because you.
Hey, I got to go right now.
Yeah.
See you for the intersection in just a few.
So long. Okay.
Right if you find work, Bennett.
Yeah. I'll let you know. Anyway, it's just, I mean, we always come around to this whole question of racial problems in this country. We have never been a tolerant country, and shame on us. And shame on us that so many years have passed and we still have these problems. And, maybe it's not as bad for blacks as it was back in the 50s when I was growing up. Jack and I know what racism was in Houston, Texas, because we used to walk down the street with my wife, and she would be standing in the middle between us. And as we walked down the street, everybody in Houston would stare at us, trying to figure out who she was with. So, I mean, I've always found any kind of racism or any kind of sexism or whatever just abominable. But it's going to continue to exist because that's the nature of this country. Yep. And that's not to say that other countries don't have the same problems, just different races they have problems with. You go to England, it's not blacks. Blacks have a pretty good deal of it in England. It's the Indians.
Yeah, that's what the Pakistanis.
The Pakistanis and people like that who are still to this day, the racism is horrible, just horrible. But anyway. So, let's see, we got a couple of, how much? We got about 30 seconds left before I start playing the theme here. Anybody have any other thoughts? Jeff.
The one thing we didn't talk about was what happened during World War II. All the Jews didn't get the chance to go to a restaurant anymore.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
And getting killed is another problem.
No, they didn't have a choice of what gas chamber either, and I'm not being sarcastic.
No, but I mean, it's interesting that Jews have had a real problem in the United States as well, especially during World War II, where we wouldn't let Jews into this country, and they were running away from the worst kind of oppression. Anyway, I'm playing the theme. That means we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us this evening. We enjoy your participation in this program. Josh, you're going away, huh? You going on a little trip?
Yeah, for a little bit. Yep.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy. Have a good time. And let's see here, Charlie. Take good care of yourself. Tony, when are you coming over?
Oh, whenever you want, just tell me.
No. I just was asking you because I wanted to know when, so I can not be here.
Oh, I got it. I'll see you next week.
And finally, thanks to our good friend Alan for being here this evening. It's very nice that you join us as well. And thank you, everybody. Give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you. Let me see here. Let me go and do that, see? Okay. Then let me get rid of them as well here. And we got rid of them. Okay. That's it. That's it for this week. We'll be back again on Monday. We do a very good show. It's I broadcast it on Facebook. Okay, so that's where you'll be able to find it at 4 o'clock on Monday. It's called The Pop-Up Show. And then we'll be back again next Wednesday at 10:30. Same time, same station in life. In the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Good night, everybody.